So, should cops be held to a higher standard? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Conversation Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I was listening to one of Thomas Sotomayor's most recent video, and it was entitled, I Made a Wonderful Beef Roast. Now, there was a caller that called in and made a great point about the fact that, blacks are always protesting when a black person is killed by a police officer, a white police officer. But we don't protest, they don't protest when it comes down to black on black killing. This is a wonderful point that so many black conservatives and really logical thinking people in general make. Now, Tommy came in and gave, he first came in with the explanation that they use to try to justify this, and this idea that cops are the authority. We've heard this before, that cops are held to a higher standard than regular citizens. Of course, then Tommy came in and he gave his answer, which is, again, in true brilliant Tommy fashion. He's just simply said that, well, if that were the case, then black people would also be angry and enraged when a cop kills a white person, or a black cop kills a white person, or a white cop kills a white person. They will be just as enraged because, well, they're they all held to the same higher standard. So then why aren't black people marching and protesting when a white person is killed by a police officer? Because that would destroy their whole argument. Now, my response to this, though, is, when it comes down to the police being held to a higher standard, or should the police be held to a higher standard, is really the question. And my answer to that, honestly, is no. I used to think that police should be held to a higher standard, but not nearly as high as people think. But I've come to the conclusion that police shouldn't be held to no more higher standard than the citizens. And why? Well, it comes down to rights versus responsibilities. The amount of rights that you're given should be directly correlated with the amount of responsibility that goes along with those rights. If you give someone a lot of rights, then a lot of responsibility comes along with those rights. If you give them a little rights, they just have just a little rights, but then they get a little responsibility comes along there. Anytime you basically give a person rights without any responsibilities, or responsibilities without the rights, you're going to run into problems. Now, the perfect example of this would be the black community. Black females are given pretty much all the rights, with very little responsibility, and we see the state of the black community now because of this. So when it comes down to being a citizen with rights, as a citizen with rights and responsibility to go along with those rights, it is your responsibility and your civic duty to know the law. You can't go out here and basically commit a crime and then say, I didn't know. And, like you're damn, with your boy from the Five Beast, Eddie Kane Jr., you cannot pull an I didn't know if you break the law, because then the law is going to say, well, ignorance is no excuse. So as a citizen, it is your civic duty to know the law just as well as a police officer does. Now, most people don't. I'd be surprised if you can find one person that does, because police officers are trained in the law. But that still doesn't change the fact that it's your responsibility as a citizen. So if it's your civic duty as a citizen to know the law as well as a police officer does, and know all the laws because you're responsible for breaking them, then how can you say that a police officer is held to a higher standard? You can't say that, because actually the police officer should be held to the exact same standard as the people who's supposed to know the exact same laws. How do you say that the police officer is held to a higher standard when citizens is a civic duty to know the law just like a police officer? So Because of this reasoning, I no longer say that police officers are held to a higher standard than the citizens or slightly higher. I say they're held to the exact same standard as citizens. Again, it's your job, it's your civic duty as a citizen to know all the laws, to know the gun laws. What's your rights and responsibility with guns? The same as police officers. Any of the laws, you are supposed to know that. As a citizen, it's your duty. If you don't want the rights, you don't want that responsibility, then relinquish the rights. Well, who's going to give up their rights? I can tell you black folks won't, the way we cry about slavery. But you swear up and down that they don't have any rights, the way they play victimhood. Anyway, anyone who says that the police are held to the higher standard, we should question that. Again, ask them that question, then is it your civic duty to know the laws? Well, then how can you say that police are held to a higher standard because they're authority figures when we are free citizens are supposed to and required to and have the civic duty to know the laws just like they do? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, y'all, this is my 2 cents on this argument. I don't believe that police officers are held to a higher standard. They should be held to the exact same standard as any citizen, any legal adult citizen who is required and who has a civic duty as a free citizen with rights and responsibilities to learn the law or to know the law. And as always, y'all, until next time.